All right, Buckeye Nation, welcome to the Buckeye Battle Cry Radio Network. I am Brandon Zimmerman, writer and editor for the Buckeye Battle Cry. As the next part in our getting to meet the Buckeye Battle Cry crew, we're going to talk with Mike Meals. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being you. Tell us a little about yourself. You are fairly new to our world, so tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, obviously, my name's Mike Meals, and it's spelled phonetically Meals. Um, I'm originally also from Wapakoneta, Ohio, the same hometown as Neil Armstrong, Kent Boyd, and Brandon Zimmerman. So, that's our claim to fame, except for the Brandon guy. Um, I, uh, I'm living now in just outside Houston, Texas, right in the heart of Goku country. So, that's been pretty exciting. I'm down here. I've been married with my wife just over a year. Um, no kids, couple dogs, a cat named after Braxton Miller. So, uh, yeah, I mean, I've been all over. Literally lived from coast to coast. You know, Played football at Defiance College after I got out of high school, and I just you know, that's about it.
Well, that sounds interesting, Mike. Thanks for sharing with us. Tell us a little bit about how you became an Ohio State fan. Tell us about your Ohio State experience.
Um, when I was actually a little kid, believe it or not, I was more of a professional football fan. My dad's, uh, he had a room that was like the man cave before people had a man cave. Everything on the walls, the he had a couch with pillows on it. I mean, everything was Cleveland Browns. And I mean, this is a guy that actually took the coffee table in that room and painted the top to look like Cleveland Browns Stadium. So I was a huge a professional football fan well through school. I followed college football at the time. I really wasn't into any particular team. My mom was a Notre Dame fan for a while. I grew up in an area with a lot of Irish Catholics, and so I followed Notre Dame. Um, I actually didn't care about Ohio State as a kid. Um, you know, it was just whoever was playing was who I really watched. And then obviously Cleveland, they lost their team. They moved to Baltimore, and I tried to stay with the NFL for a little bit. I tried becoming like an Oakland Raiders fan, and that just didn't work out at the time. You didn't have the internet like you do now. And that's when I really started getting into Ohio State football. And it just that really has become an obsession over the last 20 some years or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, secretly, do you hold like a grudge against your dad for making you such a big Browns fan, or have you kind of learned to live with that, or have you guys gone to counseling, or?
Well, I'm the first to make the joke that it is a type of psychological child abuse to raise a kid as a Browns fan. Um, it just, I tried to get back into the Browns now. I mean, I live in Houston. I think I'd actually say I'm more of a Texans and a Packers fan now than a Browns fan. I mean, I want Cleveland to win, just for my family in Ohio. But to say that I'm a Browns fan, I can't even say that anymore. I mean, I just they came back. They weren't the same to me.
Yeah, and after a while, following Ohio professional football teams, they just kill the life from you. So, as a
Exactly.
Bengals fan, I can tell you that where even though they are decently good to above average now and make the playoffs every year, like I cannot get into it. Like the '90s just took the soul from me. So
Mm-hmm.
just
Yep.
Yeah, so I feel you on that one. So let's go back to your Ohio State fandom.
Okay.
Uh, One of your first articles that you did with us at the Buckeye Battle Cry talked about superstitions, what the common fan does. So talk about some of your superstitions.
Yeah, I've actually got a couple. I talked about it a little bit in the article, but the big one is to this day I cannot watch the opening kickoff of an Ohio State game. It doesn't matter if I'm live in the stadium. I got to close my eyes. I'll plug my ears. And that actually it got started out in California. I was living out there with. Uh, I'll watch my tongue because this is a family program. But I was living out there with a good friend of mine. His name's Brandon Zimmerman. You guys might have met him once or twice.
Maybe.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it started out there. I'd literally walk out of the room, and I can't watch it. It doesn't matter what's going on. Even today, like my wife, she's actually a Michigan fan, but if the game's on, she'll actually wait and tell me when the kickoff's over, and so I can walk back into the room. So that's really one of the big ones. I'm one of those guys. I know it's kind of crazy, but I'll wear the exact same Ohio State shirt every Saturday all year long. Um, it doesn't matter where I'm going, what I'm doing. Um, I'll have that shirt on, and that sometimes can be fun here in Houston. Um, there have been times where I've had to have like my Ohio State T-shirt on and then like dress clothes over it because we had something to go to later that day or something. And it gets hot down here. But yeah, those are the two big ones there. Just I know it has no impact on the game, but if I don't do it, it feels like it could be bad. So I'm one of those crazy guys. But I think that comes from being in sports when I was younger. You know, every sport has its own superstitions. You start to develop that kind of stuff, and I think it just carried over into my fandom.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Everyone has their own type of superstitions, so can't knock on those. I know I've made fun of you in the past for some of them, um, but secretly I know that it's cool. So, um, what is your what is your favorite moment as a Buckeyes fan?
Um, well, there's two. Um, the first one, the most recent, would be beating Alabama. Kind of like the same thing what you were saying when we talked and did your interview. Just getting that win, that beat down of Alabama. They were king of the hill. They were the top dog. Everyone had picked them to just destroy the Buckeyes, and being able to witness that. I mean, that was just fantastic. That was probably one of my favorite just moments in general. To the point where actually my wife had went to bed and was yelling at me because I was screaming and jumping and yelling and whatnot. Um, Other than that, the other one, I would have to go back. I know it's kind of funny, but I'd have to go back to the '02 team that won the national title. I'd actually made the trip to Columbus for the Ohio State Michigan game. We didn't have tickets. We just went down. We were college kids, went down and partied in Columbus that weekend. And, you know, we did all the normal things that you do in Columbus as a college kid before a game, kegs and eggs and partying and tailgating at up at the stadium. And then we went back to my buddy's apartment. We watched the game. And then, the next 12 to 24 hours that we were in Columbus, it was just, an incredible, just joyous occasion. Like we beat Michigan. We knew we were going to the national title game. It was just that was such a fun weekend.
Yeah, and especially since no one really gave the Buckeyes a chance to win that game, that probably had to make it so much better. I know I wasn't around for that, so it's cool to hear kind of your side about that. I was in California at that time, and there weren't many Buckeye fans out there. Um, so it's cool to kind of hear that. And I could only Um, just really, I really can't even dream about like how crazy it must have been, out there. I know Ben kind of talked about it too, about how he worked out there, worked at the bookstore during that. And, it's one of the things that I wish I could have been a part of too. So it's cool that it's one of your favorite memories.
Hmm.
Opposite of that, what do you think is your lowest point as a Buckeye fan so far? Your worst moment?
Um, oh, that's a good question, man. Um, I would have to say the national championship game against LSU. Um, you know, I know earlier in that year Ohio State lost, and kind of at that point everyone kind of thought, okay, it's over for us. And I know it was insane after Ohio State was done for the year. They moved up, what was it, 6 spots in the polls to
Yeah, it's
move into the
crazy.
game. And just that was insane going into it. But then you get into that game, and there's still to this day no reason that Ohio State should have lost it. Um, you know, Tressel's team was just heads and shoulders above LSU at the time, and they came out and just was they were just controlling that game and had it in the bag, and came out after halftime, and you know I don't know. I still don't know what the hell they were thinking at that point, but that I still blame that on the coaching staff for the way they called the game the second half. But that was probably the low point because that should have been redemption for the Florida game the year before. That should have been the SEC win. That we finally beat the SEC, and they literally just they snatched a loss from the jaws of victory that game. So I mean that one was pretty bummed. That had me pretty bummed out.
Yeah, that one's kind of a mixed bag for me because, on one hand, I'm like, well, like I don't really care because they shouldn't have been there. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
know you and I watched that Ohio State and the Michigan game. Like we know how the season ended. They
Mm-hmm.
were ranked like number 8, 9, something like that. And I remember, like we were just content with. I think they
Yep.
were supposed to go to the Rose Bowl or something.
Yeah, actually, if you watch and see pictures from that Michigan game,
Yeah, they had
uh,
the roses.
all the Buckeyes had roses in their mouth because they knew we were
Yeah.
going to Pasadena. We weren't even considering the national title game that year.
Yeah, and then I remember you and I met up with another friend that following week, like all the championship week
Hmm.
games. We went out to a bar out there in Rockland, California, and we just watched like all these teams lose and lose and
Hmm.
lose, and then it kind of got to us like, oh crap, like Buckeyes actually have a chance of going to the championship game.
Yeah.
So on one hand, like that game, I'm kind of like, well, I'm not as upset about that game as I was about Florida. But then on the other hand, just like you were talking about, I mean, Beanie Wells was running all over that LSU defense.
Yep.
And we were watching that game at my wife's house, and like they were just running all over that. And yeah, they just completely changed it. So
So
I thought you might go with the Texas game, bowl game, the
well,
Fiesta Bowl,
well that
after Ohio State had just scored to go up with what, like 2 minutes left,
yeah that
and then
that
they let
was
that one-on-one coverage across the middle, man, and like as pumped up as Ohio State fan base was inside of that stadium, it was just like one giant kick to the groin.
dude that Fiesta Bowl game against Texas is a close second on my list. I don't know if you just said it or not. I try not to listen to you when you talk, but we were in Glendale for that game. We went down to Phoenix, and it was an awesome weekend. Just like the Oklahoma game here, there were Buckeyes everywhere. But dude, just the way that stadium erupted when Ohio State scored, and then the Ohio State half the stadium, then turned around and died when Texas scored again. I mean that was the single most deflating moment I think, of my, being a Buckeye fan for sure.
Yeah, definitely live. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So now we got your Buckeye stuff out of the way. Let's talk about your thoughts on the wonderful, marvelous Big Ten.
Yeah, I've made no attempt to hide it. I think there's, I'm on the verge of almost saying there's almost four really good Big Ten teams. I mean, I know there's three that are clearly there. Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State. Those three are easily the class of the conference right now. I'm leaning slightly towards Nebraska. Just you take in everything that has been said about them already. They are a better team than what they played with their record last year. They've got a lot of talent, and they've got something that really helps a team out a lot with the unfortunate passing of Sam Foltz. That when you have something like that to help motivate the team, like it's almost like there's a 12th man on the field sometimes, and you can do things you didn't think you could do before. I think Nebraska is going to be something special this year. Not Ohio State, Alabama special, but I think they're going to be a lot better than even most non-Nebraska fans say. You got some of the teams in the middle. You got the next bunch, the Wisconsins, the Iowas. I'm not sold on Wisconsin. I mentioned it to you the other night. They legitimately could go something like 2-5 their next 7 games.
Hmm.
And nobody'd bat an eye at it because they've got an extremely tough schedule. They play all the big names in the Big Ten. Iowa, they took a hit with was it North or South Dakota State, whichever one it was they just played. But
Yeah, North Dakota.
North Dakota, yeah. But they're a 5-time defending national champion. They're not a pushover. It's not a cream puff. You start getting down then, towards the bottom of the conference. Nerdwestern is just not good. Chris Ash, I think he's going to do a lot of good things at Rutgers and eventually make them respectable in terms of being Rutgers, but they're just not. The talent level's not there. The Maryland talent's not there. I don't see it. But so out of that, I like I said, I think Nebraska comes out of the West. I think they come out easily. It's going to come. It'll come down to them or Iowa, but I think Nebraska comes out. In the East, Ohio State is, and not just because I'm a fan. I think Ohio State is the class of the conference. So I think they're going to come out. I actually think Michigan State's going to be better than Michigan this year, and that's not even a slight on Michigan. It's just they're still not quite to that step where Coach Kaki has all the talent that he needs to win in Michigan yet. D'Antonio's Michigan State. They lost a lot of talent, but they're still. I think they're the number 2 team in the conference, just barely. And then I think obviously when it comes to Ohio State, Nebraska, I think Ohio State's going to win both times this year.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Agree with you on that one. What are your college football playoff teams right now?
If the season ended today, because the matchups haven't all happened yet, it'd be, I think, Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Louisville 3, and the University of Houston 4. I know we've talked about it, and I know you mentioned it, but the defense that Houston has, their defensive coordinator has just been a great game planner. Greg Ward Jr. is really special. As far as Louisville goes, Lamar Jackson, give the man the September Heisman for sure. He's just been lights out. It's been amazing watching what he's done. We've talked about Ohio State over and over again. We know what they're capable of right now. So I mean, I'm not even going to beat that dead horse. But and then Alabama is, they may not be the same Alabama team that they've been in years past recently, but until somebody actually takes them to the woodshed and knocks them down, they're still the king of college football right now.
Yeah, which that'll be the Buckeyes. I'm confident in that one. All right. You ready for some rapid fire?
Sure,
You want to do some of this? Are you ready for these ones?
not really, but okay.
Nope. All right. We'll start off with an easy one for you. Eddie George or Zeke?
Zeke,
Zeke.
better all around back.
Cody Kessler or Charlie Whitehurst?
That's not even fair. Can I bring in Cardell Jones?
No.
I'd have to go with Whitehurst. I mean, I don't think he's a better player overall. It's just he's been in the league for years, and I think
And
that'll help him.
who had a worse exit from Ohio State? Jim Tressel or Woody Hayes?
Um, I'm gonna go with Woody. Um, you know, there's a small part of me, and I know it's because I'm a Buckeye fan. I can see why Tressel did what he did. I mean, I'm not saying it's right. I mean, I know it's violation of some really stupid NCAA rules, but I can see why he did it. And he's eventually went on. He's the president at Youngstown State now, and he's done pretty well. And to this day, if Tressel walked into any place in Ohio, he wouldn't have to pay for a dime. No beer or anything. I think Woody's was worse just because he did the one thing that every fan would like to do at some point, whether they admit
Yeah.
it or not. But once Woody left Ohio State as the coach, he just kind of uneventfully rode off into retirement at that point.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay. Who is worse, Michigan fans or people that marry Michigan fans?
I'm gonna plead the fifth because I have to go in and lay down with a Michigan fan.
So you are worse than an actual Michigan fan. We will go with that answer.
Well, it's kind of funny because believe it or not, and I know I'm going to get ridiculed for this, but there are like 3 Michigan fans in this world that are okay. So I'll leave it at that.
Hmm.
I
Is
just happen to
Lauren
be
one of
married.
them?
What's that?
Is Lauren one of them?
Well, yeah, duh.
Okay. Lola or Brutus?
I don't even know how to answer that. um, so, backstory for everyone that doesn't know: I've got a dog named Lola. Just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, she actually was diagnosed with skin cancer, and she's good now. And we had everything taken care of. But so I'm going to have to go with my dog.
Okay. It's Michigan week. You're on a boat. You're on a two-person boat. You roll up to this island. You can only save one person. JT Barrett's sitting there and Urban Meyer. Who do you save to bring back for the Michigan game?
Urban,
Urban? That's
Urban.
probably a good choice.
JT's. I said it the other day on Twitter during I think the Oklahoma game. He's going to be a special player for someone in the NFL. He's basically a surgeon now. I mean, he runs the offense the way it's supposed to be ran, the way Urban wants it ran. But in Urban, I trust, I guess.
And he's proven he can win with multiple quarterbacks, so
Right?
doesn't matter who he's facing against. Tougher competition. Western Buckeye League or Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference?
I'm actually impressed you found the HCAC.
Hmm.
I'd have to say the Western Buckeye League.
The Western Buckeye League. So your high school competition was tougher than your college competition.
No, I just said it was a tougher league.
That's true. There you go. Of course, there were some pretty decent players to come through the WBL back when we were in high school. So,
Oh yeah, and obviously we're from the same hometown, and there's not just the WBL, but you got the high school MAC team conferences there with
mhm.
St. Henry and Coldwater, Marion local, and
Minster. Shout out
yeah,
to Minster.
Minster. Whoo. But there's been a lot of really good college football players that have came through the high schools in the WBL. High school football in Ohio is like it is here in Texas. It's life. I'd have to say, just as a collective group, I'd go with the WBL.
All right. And bonus question. Which take of my video was your favorite? First, second, or third? Because we did my video a bunch of times. Because we
Well,
couldn't stop laughing.
the first one was good. The audio sucked.
Yeah.
Um, and then the start to the second one was good, but I'm trying to be a professional here, so I'm gonna have to say the third, the polished one, is the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Polished. That is what we will call it. Well, Michael, go ahead and let our wonderful fans know where they can find your work and where they can see your Twitter masterpiece.
So my Twitter handle is at mmeals. It's MMEALS. You can find. I write two regular articles for the Buckeye Battle Cry. One is the view beyond the shoe, where we just whatever it is that comes to mind that's bugging me about college sports or anything at that point. It's just kind of my opinion piece. Try not to go too fine ball or Clay Travis on anyone, but just the as a general fan, what I've seen and issues that I take up with. The other piece that I write regularly is the Beyond Buckeye Lines. And what we do there is I sit down and talk to fans from outside of Columbus, and just try to see what they think of Ohio State. Because there's a national narrative that Ohio State is just a terrible team and a terrible program. Just kind of get their ideas and their thoughts, and also use that a little bit to kind of show people what's going on elsewhere in college football. So you can see me there, and then same thing as what everybody else does on the Buckeye Battle Cry. If something comes up, or like when JT won Player of the Week in the Big Ten there a couple weeks ago, I try to jump in and help out with that. And in the future, you'll see the rest of the Meet the Buckeye Battle Cry crew. I've been spearheading that effort as much as possible to get videos like this out so people can see who we are. And, there's some stuff coming down the pipeline that I'm pretty excited about. It looks like there's a pretty good chance that, we may actually start up our third podcast for the Buckeye Battle Cry, where it's actually right now kind of being developed, but actually Brandon and I are going to start doing, some video or audio podcasts. Try to do one of those a week or something. Just touch on what's going on.
It's going to be crazy. And if you haven't had a chance to check out Mike's articles yet, make sure that you check them out. It's one thing we kind of pride ourselves on here at the Buckeye Battle Cry is some original pieces. It's really hard to do in the Buckeye world where you got 5 billion sites writing about the same thing. Mike does some great pieces. If you haven't checked them out, last week he interviewed a former first-round pick to talk about Texas A&M and the Buckeyes. Those are things that you won't find on any other website. So make sure you check out the stuff that Mike's doing, and same with everything that the Buckeye Battle Cry is doing. We've got some amazing things coming up here
Yeah.
soon.
And just as a little plug there, I'm always taking suggestions from people that fans of other fan bases or anything. I've talked to some Big 12 people. I've talked to some SEC people. I've actually got an interview lined up with a couple different guys in the American Athletic Conference. But if somebody, if you think somebody that might be good to talk to, that you'd be interested in hearing what they have to say, I'm always ears. We've got plenty of weeks to talk to people, so let me know.
Yeah, if anyone's got a good phone number for Austin Kendall, send them Mike's way. We know he likes to talk, so
Yeah, that would be quite entertaining. But since Bob Stoops went ahead and shut that down for everyone, I think we're going to have to go ahead and say that's not going to happen.
I'm sorry, beat writers.
Yeah, y'all can
Uh,
blame Brandon for that, Oklahoma.
yes. Is it too late to apologize? Yeah, so that's it. Do you have anything else to add on to that?
The last thing I'd want to point out, I know, the interview that Brandon talked about with Sam Davis that I did the other day, and I wanted to go ahead and take a moment to point out Sam does a lot of really cool things around here in Houston for families that are not in the best situations. Every year he does this big turkey drive where he gives out like Thanksgiving dinners to families in need over in the Humble area. They put on some skills camps for like inner city youth that a chance to kind of learn some football skills and eventually possibly turn those into being able to turn it into a college education and whatnot. That's something that I'm a big fan of and a big supporter of. So if anybody wants to be involved with that, let me know. Get a hold of me. Get a hold of me on Twitter or contact the site or something. I'd love to help get you guys in contact. Expand that program.
That's awesome. Great stuff, Mike. All right, well, guys, thanks for staying with us. It's been a fun interview with Mike. Um, like I said earlier, just make sure if you haven't read Mike's stuff, go do it. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. He does a very good job of getting his opinion out there without um, coming off too Harvey Updike-ish, like uh, he adds some humor to it. You're gonna laugh. You're also going to agree with everything he says. So check out his stuff. Also, continue to watch our videos while you get to know our Buckeye Battle Cry staff. We've got quite a few coming out over the next couple of days during this bye week until we get into next week and we go full bore. So thanks for joining the Buckeye Battle Cry Network. We'll see you later.
By the way, that was the Buckeye Battle Cry Radio Network for anyone that it cut out on.
Buckeye.
OH.
I O.